Unlike the ongoing maintenance issues that Network Rail faces each day, the heritage railways have the same problems, but much worse. For one simple reason: steam is old tech. And hanging on to the engineering expertise that knows how to fix things is a challenge.
And the job today is to bring it up to pressure to test it. Yesterday we filled it with water and let it sit overnight. We put a warming fire in it late last night, which has warmed it up. And today we will bring it round to somewhere near blowing off pressure, hopefully, depending on how well it warms up. We're not going to force it, and we'll just see how we go.
Ray's mission is simple: push the boiler's pressure until it blows off. That is, there's too much steam and it needs venting. But first, there's work to be finished inside the firebox. Its fire bricks have been removed, and Ray and his assistant Joe must replace them.
This bar here sits on these lugs. The brick arch sits on there. You'll see in a minute that it's got a cutout around it like that. So we start from this end and we work back.
Fire bricks are used to redirect unburned carbon particles and gases back into the firebox so that less smoke is expelled from the chimney, making the engine more efficient.
Yeah.
But they often need replacing after 5 years.
That's all right, isn't it? Yeah, that's going to settle down. So that's the first section. And as you see, it forms an arch, stops it falling. This is the key brick, which is keeping these two front ones in. Then all we're going to do now is bring the next section back, and on we go. Right, so can we have the next two in, please? Okie dokie. Look at that. See how the line goes down there, look? Yeah, it's a work of art, isn't it? Beautiful.
With new fire bricks in, all valves checked, all that's missing is a fire. 22-year-old trainee engineer Joe Malloy has been volunteering here for 3 years, which means he's the right man to start one.
Yes, I've got my rags here. This is what I'll be starting the fire with, but to do that I'll be soaking them in paraffin. Can't have a chance to light, so I'll have to crack on. Most firemen have their own individual ways of lighting fires, but what I'll do, I'll light some paraffin, put some wood on, and then that'll be followed by coal. I think the appeal for me is that it's not a conventional job. You know, you get your hands nice and dirty. There's only so much a book can teach you. You know, and there is room for some of the more academic stuff that I've learned through university. There is room for that. You know, so when you think about a steam engine, yes, it boils water, but there's a lot of complicated systems along the way. You might as well burn that as well, whatever that is. Bit of roof or something.
Unlike getting the coals glowing nicely on the barbie, boiling a giant kettle like this is a much, much bigger job.
We generally look at warming up over an 8 to 10 hour period, just taking the chill off of it, and then bringing it into steam after that. And we use another 6 hours before we actually do any steam testing. From cold to actually blowing off would be somewhere in the region of 16 to 20 hours. That way all the plate is warmed up and is all expanded nicely. You haven't put any shocks into it. And it's a good thing for the boiler. I was once told you wouldn't expect somebody to kick them out of bed and do the 4-minute mile straight away. So that's how we sort of relate to a steam engine. Have we looked at the spot box? That's all right.
With that in mind, Ray only has another hour or so to wait until 5786 is fit to burst.
Blower's turned off.
And he and it can blow off steam to his heart's content.
So the plan now is to do a full steam test on it, which brings it up nice and slowly. We're looking at about another 3 or 4 hours before it actually blows off.
Ray is happy the new flue tubes are watertight. Any leaks immediately reduce the efficiency of the engine. Next, the all-important steam test.
Although it may not leak under water pressure, it may leak under steam, which is why you have to do a steam test. And then if that all passes, we're going to put it on the passenger train this afternoon and test it that way. Make sure the brakes work and he's all in beat and everything, and we tightened everything up.
This class of engine uses coal to boil 12,000 gallons of water. But has Ray got enough?
So we will open the gauge glass, and there we go. The gauge glass is full up. When we're doing a boiler, a steam test, we fill him right up to there. We've had one or two incidents in my experience where a mud door has started leaking or something's gone a little wrong. And believe you me, when something's going wrong with 200 PSI on the clock, this water level goes down very quickly. So I always fill them up there. I instruct all our lot, we fill them up to there. If something's gone wrong, you're emptying the fire out, you're doing something, you're acting before the water comes in sight.
Young apprentice Joe Malloy has started a fire. But to get the steam pressure up close to 200 PSI, it takes Ray's years of know-how to ensure it really gets going.
This is a square flat box. Square flat box on a Western engine loves what we call a saucifier. Up in the corners, thin in the middle. When he's out there working, you have to flap up, and when the sparks stop jumping out, he wants one in each corner. That's what these love. Phil, our generation are the hard done by ones. We spent most of our time taking them out of Barry and scrapyards and getting them all going. So you've had all the boys up to that point running it as a business, doing it as a profession. We've come along and saved and done all the hard work with very little equipment and everything, getting them going. And now we've got all these engines preserved. We've got easier ways of making cylinders and everything. So the next generation on, I've got it easy. But hell, that's life, isn't it? Still wouldn't have changed it. So.
In the cab of Loco 5786, South Devon Railway's most experienced engineer, Ray Lee, has perfectly stoked his fire and created precisely 200 pounds per square inch of steam pressure. It's now time for the engine's final and critical safety test.
What's going to happen now, we're blowing him around. I'm going to shut that off. The reheat, the safety valve will start to feather. There's two valves up there, one set slightly higher than the other. So the safety valve will start to hiss in a minute. And what we're going to do then, we'll end up doing what they call an accumulation test, whereas the fire, it cannot produce more steam than we can safely get rid of. If the safety valves were gagging, which meant the needle carried on going up, we've got a problem. We would have to shut the fire out and have a look at it. He's on the mark, the needle is bang on the line. Just beginning to lift. There you go. So, we now blow him round a bit more. As you can hear, the noise is getting louder, which means he's trying to create above the safety valve. Look. Second valve coming up to lift now. So I turn this off. Pair of valves lifting now, so both valves are lifted. We will not go any further. We're within our tolerance. I'm now going to climb it down. There are, he's singing away. Right, so the boiler's full up. This injector works fine. This injector's doing it. Shut up, now they're on it. The needle's bang on 200. And he's shut up. So that means they can now run this engine, bang on the line. It'll be his maximum efficiency. Every gallon of water and every pound of coal we put in there will be used to its best. So that's a successful test, all right? Both injectors work. We now got to have a little walk around to make sure that everything's okay. We'll just bring the water level back. There we go.
Despite Ray now being happy that the boiler is able to produce enough steam pressure to drive the wheels, the last check is inside the smoke box, where spent steam and fuel exhaust mix, before being expelled through the chimney.
So we've looked for the flue tubes, they're all dry as a bone, the plugs are all dry, there's no water leaks at all, so that side of it signed off lovely. And we'll just steam test the pipes, but that's a job we're going to do in a minute. Would you go and put the steam brake on, mid-gear drain cock's closed, and just give it a little charge on the regulator? So what Chris is going to do now, he's one of our shed drivers, going to put it in mid-gear, put the brakes on. He's just going to give it a breath of steam so we can see if the pipes are leaking. Thank you. So what I've done, both pipes are dry as a bone.
And the final proof of the pudding is the 5786, ready for action again.
Even the small kids, they come on the platform and you can see in their eyes that there's this great big monster sat there, quiet as anything, and it'll chuff off down the line. Everybody's enjoying it. It's just taken us back to a day when beer was cheap and it was good to smoke, wasn't it? And you see it just, and of an evening when it comes in, it's a breathing, living thing. When it's got a fire in it, it's a breathing, living thing.